like I say, and then they played to me some things about the Irish saying, "Oh yeah, we sure got those guys," blah blah blah, and stuff like that. And I talked to them, I think, and at first I don't believe them. I'm like, what is all this? And I'm very upset. And they're like, something something something. I forget the exact details of the conversation I had with them. Like, I mean, I see the evidence, and it looks like it's Irish, but I'm like, I'm gonna look into this, and I asked for some people to look into it, and basically find out what was going on. The black people basically were doing, trying to fool me pretty much, and make me think that it was a cover up or something like that. But I'm like, I mean, like I say, I already liked the Irish a lot, and I had already used them quite a bit, so I wasn't sure, and I might have said lock them up, lock up those people. But there's just two people that get locked up, and they can always get out. I mean, everyone's like, we know you weren't responsible. So, I mean, I do make mistakes, of course, but so basically, I mean, after everything, and and some of the Irish, I think, even said it was worth it, even if I spent the rest of my life in jail, it was worth it because those guys have been killing and raping people forever. And then anyway, all this stuff is exposed between 1930 and 1940. So, anyway. And so, like I say, the depression wasn't really a depression. The depression was basically just the black people pretty much torturing the shit out of the white people and everyone else. And realistically, they were doing, as leading up to war. And then what the black people do next, basically, is they initiate a full-on race war. And that's what actually, that's why the war actually begins between 1940 or 1930 and 1960, is because between those years, basically everybody knows what's going on with the blacks and everything else, and that's why the blacks just go full on, complete and total annihilation of all white people, and then they really start killing people. Like I said, that's when they start really because the black people, they've already been ratted out, and they've already been exposed, so everyone already knows that that's the blacks and that's those people from Yale or Harvard that have been doing all this. So, and it's on national TV, so everyone has seen it. So, between 1930 and 1960 or so, basically the blacks, like I say, a lot of people resend their checks. A lot of people basically, take it all back from Michael Jackson and his father and everyone else. And basically, the black people pretty much go bankrupt overnight. People won't buy from them. Like, people won't even give them food or anything because, like, you're rapists, and then, like I say, it comes out, and the black people are like, we gotta stick together, and this and that, and even the black people didn't really know about the full truth of everything. I think they knew enough though, like the Irish say, they knew enough, because they had all basically been stealing and killing and all that, and it was serious media suppression between Harvard and Yale and what the blacks people were doing. Mr. Browns and stuff like that. So all this stuff is exposed between 1930 and 1940. And that's what actually initiates the war that actually goes on because at that point in time, Mr. Brown and Papa and Mr. Black, they decide to do basically full on extermination. And that's when they just go through the street locking up people or shooting people and then carpet bombing whole cities. Because they're like, we're already exposed, they just go full on. And they just start, all blacks to the skies basically, and they start bombing things, and that's when when Papa and Mr. Brown's like, we're like a plague, we're gonna bring it all down, and that's why all the blacks are just attacking and shooting people all throughout the streets, along with some Yale and Harvard people, and so that's what actually starts the war. And what all the death was actually about is that the blacks were just running through the streets with guns and just shooting everybody and killing everyone, and so were the Harvard and Yale boys. So I think so. Anyway, it's just a full-on like race war. So anyway, though the rest of the details are fuzzy. I'm fuzzy on, but that's basically what actually initiates World War II or something like that, World War One. But realistically, like I say, the blacks and the Harvard and Yale people, they had been hitting town and building by building. They had been going between 1930 and 1920 and 1960. They had actually just been going from building to building, pretty much, cleaning out every building. And the neighbors of the people just one town away, they don't know what's really going on. Only the people in the area. And they try and shoot everyone in the area. So you have whole blocks that basically where people die between 1930 and 1940. And they just systematically go around, the towns and cities. So, and they basically just hit the managers and the owners, the companies, and anyone who's rich or anyone who can defend themselves. And they only target the white people or certain people. So, minorities or whatever. So anyway, so this is what's actually going on between 1930 and 1940 and 1950 and 60 and 70. And basically, it's basically the downfall of the aristocrats and the Republicans and the Democratic Party, pretty much. Anyway, the Germans were actually doing something about it or trying to stop it, and stuff like that. And they were actually doing a pretty good job. The Irish said the Germans were actually doing a pretty good job of keeping these people in check, but as soon as they killed all their leaders, and all that, then it was over, so, and then they started hitting the cities as fast as they can, as many as they could. So the Crips have quite a high body count on their head, and so do the Bloods or whatever. And I think what it's divided to is the Bloods actually would do one part of the things, and then the Crips would actually poison the crops or something like that. It's like Crips and crops or something like that. And Bloods and something or other. Anyway, they had a whole thing going, basically. So I was blissfully unaware of. So it would have been different. But, like I said, poisoning meat and feeding it to children, feeding it to whites. So there's all that, but that's not really Jimmy Carter. That's Jimmy Carter and John McCain and Richard Nixon, but more of the blacks and the Crips and basically the coloreds. They had it divided into coloreds. So basically, but like I said, I don't think a lot of colors were like, they're crazy. But I don't know, whatever. Maybe they're all of one mind. Seemed like they were, because Africa basically just attacked. They coalesced in different towns, so they would just take over a town and then kick up their feet and say it's theirs. So anyway. So a lot of death and destruction between 1920 and 1940 or 1950. Just a lot of people didn't know about all the death and rape that was going on between 1920 and 1940. Like I said, it would have ended with all the carpet bombing of all the cities and everything else like that, and also carpet bombing also nuking of cities too. They flew around and they would just nuke one city after another. They would load up a plane with 5 nukes, and they would just and they nuked them between 1930 and 1940 or so. They were just nuking cities. That was what Mr. Brown was doing with the. I think we shut down the plane though. We knew they were doing it, and we found them and shot them down because they were in a B whatever bomber, and so the aircraft. And I think that's where the nitrous oxide aircraft went in. They were too high for the aircraft or whatever, or something like that. Up there in I don't know if it's Flying Fortress or B something bomber, but with the NOS they could reach it. They're like, and then they could just get in range. Anyway, I don't really know. I just know that there was a couple times when they're like, yeah, NOS, let's use it. Anyway, so yeah. There was a Flying Fortresses, and they had 25,000 feet maximum height or something. It depends on how much they're loaded and all that other stuff, though. I don't know. There's just a lot of war and battle, and it was just everyone was slugging out against versus the blacks, which were slugging out against everyone. So anyway, but that's why blacks are blissfully not around for a lot of it, because when they are around, they just start shooting between 1920 and 1940.